Here I have an LED circuit that is not complete. I'm going to use my button switch to close the circuit. The button switch has 4 legs. Legs on the same side are connected, but legs on opposite sides are not. Notice there are 2 little pins at the bottom. Put the switch into the breadboard so that those little pins go right into the valley in the middle. Right now, my circuit is closed. Unfortunately, the button doesn't do anything because those 2 legs are connected. So right now, my LED will always be on. If I move the power line to the other side of the leg, now my circuit is open unless I press the button. Then the circuit is complete, allowing the light to turn on. In the previous circuit, the button and the LED were in series, so closing the button allowed you to close the circuit. In this configuration, the button is on its own circuit and the LED is on a different parallel circuit. Because of this, the two should not affect each other. However, because of the code I wrote, when the button is pressed, the Arduino detects that signal and sends a separate signal to the LED to turn on. So when button is pressed, LED will turn on. When the button is not pressed, the LED will turn off.
Here's the code for the button controlling the LED. The button is on pin 7. We opened up our serial monitor. Notice this time pin mode is not an output but an input. That's because we are going to read the button to see if it's being pressed or not pressed. The LED, however, is still an output. The command is to digital read the button. This is similar to analog read, except we're reading a digital pin and we're going to get a value of either high or low. We're going to print that value, and then we have an if-else statement letting us know that if the value is low, we want our light to be off, but if the value is high, we want our light to be on. So let's check it out. Right now we're getting a serial reading of 0. 0 is the equivalent of low. That means the button is not being pressed. When I press the button, the value changes to 1. So now the button is being pressed. Then when I release it, again, it switches back to 0. You previously learned about the if-else statement. You can also have an else-if as well if you wish. Because for the button we really only have 2 options, a low or a high, we could have just stuck with if and else. If you have many options, you may choose to do if, else if, and finally an else. The final else is just letting you know to do this thing if none of the previous conditions were met. If we do choose to do an else, we cannot just delete the if. That will give us an error. That's because the else does not actually need the parentheses with the condition, because else is for everything else that does not meet the condition in the previous statement of if.